I'm Jerry, and I left MAGA.
Hey everybody, Rich coming to here at Leaving MAGA at leavingmaga.org for the MeidasTouch network. So good to be back with all of you. We have been on the road recently, and I am happy to report that Leaving MAGA has never been busier. We have a brand new Leaving MAGA testimonial today. I want to bring him in. We are joined right now by Jerry Koch from the state of Missouri. So, Jerry, let me first thank you for being with us today. Appreciate you being here and being willing to tell your story. Let's just
Rich,
get
I
it's
appreciate you. I appreciate you having this platform available for us.
now it's my pleasure. Let's just get right into everything, Jerry, here.
Certainly.
And if you could take us through just a little bit of your background and what attracted you about the MAGA movement.
I was raised as a charismatic evangelical and in a Republican family, so it was just a natural progression to go from being a Reagan supporting active duty airman right on into the MAGA movement. It was just a natural progression because of how I was taught as a child.
So can you talk a little bit about what I see as this inextricable link between evangelicism and MAGA? We have lots of testimonials at our website at leavingmaga.org, and there are several who left MAGA who were and still are devout Christians, but but they went through a crisis of faith, which led them to eventually leaving MAGA. Can you talk a little bit about what you see as that link between evangelicism and MAGA?
Uh, for me, what I see that, in the short answer, is that charismatic evangelicalism is inherently an authoritarian doctrine system. So you always believe what your preacher says, or you believe those that your preacher might support or promote. And my cat, go on, Smokey. But yeah, when folks are looking at the idea that if I question something, then I could lose my grace from God and end up in hell, it makes it easy to just be indoctrinated into an authoritarian system like MAGA.
What do you think about these comments that I see a lot online where, people will talk about how to reconcile between the Trump administration's actions and the lack of what I was raised to believe in Christian values. I was a Catholic growing up. I joked that I'm an excommunicated Catholic, but I remain a believer. And but how do you think it can be reconciled where we look at the actions and the rhetoric of the Trump administration and then people who are devout Christians who support this? What is happening there?
I think what needs to be understood is early in the 20th century there was a bifurcation in American Christianity where one went more towards a social Christianity, which is like what we see in the progressive Christian churches now, and then a more authoritarian version of Christianity, which is where we derived this whole authoritarian system from that we have now. There's a lot of history that goes behind it. It really ramped up. Like the Assembly of God Church is where I grew up, and they were founded in 1914. And one of the founders of the Assembly of God Church was like number two or number three in command when the 1915 Ku Klux Klan was formed. And then we get into the post World War II tent revivals with William Branham, which gets us to the folks like Oral Roberts and Ken Copeland. And I think it's difficult for a lot of folks to really decipher the duality of the messaging, because I've actually heard Ken Copeland say that God is the biggest loser in the Bible. And yet God is this also is promoted as this all powerful creature being. So it's the duality of the messaging, the constant duality of the messaging. It keeps people off balance and it makes it difficult for them to employ rational thinking, especially if they get attacked just for asking a question.
So take us through, thank you for that. So, Jerry, take us through what life was like for you in MAGA while you were an active. Is it fair to say that you were like me, you were a true believer, you were an activist within MAGA? What was life like for you?
Um, During the first Trump administration, it was pretty laid back. I didn't become really activated until after the 2020 election. And I had bought in completely on the stolen election theory. And that ended up leading me into becoming a congressional watchdog and eventually a live streamer. That ended up costing me a relationship in the end of that. But I was in so deep that I was running 10-hour live streams 3 times a week and then moderating for a compatriot for his 10-hour streams 3 times a week. So after COVID is really when things got wild for me. That's when I got into live streaming, was during COVID. Yeah, I was a true believer, but I started seeing things that just they didn't ring true for me based upon what I knew from Christianity and then my walk through the pagan world for a while. I mean, I came back and I see this video of Paula White doing this chant, calling angels from Africa and South America, and I'm like, man, that's some pagan stuff right there. What's going on? And that question right there ended up causing me to invest about 10,000 hours in the next 3 years in my deconstruction, which deconstructing my faith meant I had to also deconstruct my politics because where I grew up, they were the same thing. It was a challenge, but it was worth the work.
There's so much radicalization that occurs online. And I'm curious if you could go a little bit more into depth and detail on what live streaming was like for you, what you did online, what you saw online, how much of it was MAGA, how much was MAGA adjacent. I'm curious about what it is that you saw so often online, and if you feel like it also influenced and maybe radicalized you when you were so consistently doing live streaming.
Oh, it definitely influenced me, and I'm glad that you asked that question because I've reactivated my YouTube channel, and currently I've already dropped 2 videos. There's 3 more that are going to drop today when we're recording this video. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm doing a numbered series of videos explaining the historical facts that are going towards the book that I'm going to write about this whole experience. All of it, the history leading up to how I got caught up in all of it, and not just me. But to further answer that question, I'm going to be making other videos talking about the things that I saw, some of the conversations that I was involved in and setting on MAGA panels. Like a current event story that's going on is at the Ark Encounter, there's a measles outbreak, but it's because there's a lot of anti-vaxxers in that community. That said, I have sat on MAGA panels where we have debated with young Earth creationists and flat earthers and globe earthers, all sitting on the same panel and finding out that young Earth creationists and flat earthers actually have more in common than a lot of people would realize. So I got a lot to talk about out there on the things that I saw. Uh, Wild, just it was a lot of wild, hyperbolic conspiracy theories that I ended up untangling, like Atlantis and Anunnaki, things like that. When a collective believes verifiable falsehoods as hard fact under the guise of they're hiding the truth from us, it makes it really difficult to penetrate that wall.
Yeah, we did a video with a lady named Erica Roach who was in QAnon, and she expressed a similar sentiment, which is this: when she was in QAnon, there was always this feeling that the group and the community was privy to
Mm,
insider information that no one else had.
right. I was never QAnon, but I was definitely Q adjacent until I saw things that were being predicted that weren't coming true. Because growing up as a child, I learned in church, if somebody makes a prediction and it doesn't come true, then the prophecy is not from God. Mention Julie Green. She has over 220 missed prophecies, and she's a Trump prophet. So there's my case in point. And yet she still has people following her. It's crazy.
So, talk a little bit about why you feel the need to speak out about all of this.
I'm seeing a lot of former MAGA talking about their experiences, and I'm like, yeah, but there's so much more to the story than this because of the fact that I was so deep. Um, we've chit chatted a little bit, and you hadn't heard about Kekistan until I showed up. But I had somebody that tried to recruit me into this digital environment that is as far right as you can get. I mean, it has self-avowed nationalist socialists running around. Those of you who don't know what a nationalist socialist is, that's the long form of the word Nazi. So yeah, that experience was one of those things that really got me to looking at the community. And so there's a lot of things that people that have left MAGA aren't talking about that I know exist. And so I'm going to be bringing that to light, including doing videos talking about the different media outlets that I used and promotion of these stories. 100% Fed Up, National File, Gateway Pundit, Fox News, and more. But yeah, I was fully consumed.
Yeah, I consume that media that you just mentioned, the Fox's Gateway Pundits. I wrote for a lot of MAGA media when I was in MAGA itself. I wrote for the Federalist. I had bylines in places like Fox, American Thinker, American Greatness. I even wrote for a site called WorldNet Daily, WND, which is the site that originated the Obama birther conspiracy. But
Oh, fun.
I knew that they had originated that conspiracy, but it didn't matter to me because what mattered and was more important was that I used that platform at WorldNet Daily to fight this political battle of good and evil versus existential threats, whether they were Democrats or liberals or progressives or anti-Trump Republicans. And, I relate to what you're saying because for me, it got to a point where I diversified my news and information sources, and I started to realize that a lot of what I believed was false. And
Yeah,
it took me an entire year to leave because I had believed years and years worth of lies.
exactly. And that's where my deconstruction came in real helpful. I mean, one of the things that I was raised with as a kid was Jesus did great things. And if you have enough faith in God, then you can do great things as well. You can do greater things. And they would use Lazarus as an example. So I heard a lot of preachers that were coming over visiting from Africa or that had gone to missions in Africa or South America telling these stories about, raising the dead. And that was a bad way to set me up. But I later learned that that doesn't happen. That's not a thing. And so that caused me to ask even more questions. And yeah, understanding better about legitimate subjects like science. I deal with fibromyalgia. So I needed to understand the truth about fibromyalgia. So I studied it. As far as diversifying information, I started listening to veterans. I absolutely love Jesse Delmore. He's former Marine. He grew up as a Republican, and he grew up as one of those charismatic evangelicals. And he's got some solid opinions. I like listening to him. Of course, like anybody else, I don't agree with him all the time. But yeah, that's definitely the direction I lean. And that's what got me out, was the diversification, opening my mind up just a little bit. And it ended up opening up a lot.
Yeah, that's a leitmotif throughout our testimonials, which people can find and read at leavingmaga.org, where people diversified their news and information sources. They started to step outside of the right-wing MAGA media echo chamber and bubble. And it opened up a whole new world of factual information for them that was grounded in reality. Jerry, I want to just tell you I appreciate so much you speaking out. You know, I want to welcome you to the Leaving MAGA community. I also want to welcome you to the MeidasTouch Network community. And we like to always end our videos on a positive affirmation. If you would join me.
Gladly.
I'm Rich, and I left MAGA.
I'm Jerry, and I left MAGA.
We're with Jerry Koch from the state of Missouri. Jerry, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak up.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.